Hello. All right, well, it's almost 11 o'clock. I'm going to get started very soon. Ariel, are you there? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so guess what? It's just you and me. So is that okay with you? Sounds good. All right, perfect. Well, let's do this. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to share the PowerPoint with you. We'll have some discussions. If there's any questions, you can send them in the chat box, or if it stays just the two of us, I can put on your microphone and you can ask me live if you want, because it's just the two of us, so we got a full hour to ourselves. I am a bit early. Okay, just so you know, I have a work meeting at 12. Oh, perfect. I will be done by then. I am just going to say that sometimes my computer pauses because of, I guess, Wi-Fi or internet connection. So know that I'll be back on in about 10 seconds or so. I have my dog here, so she might demand to go out. I might have to leave for 3 seconds to do that because my daughter and my husband are on a meeting as well. So let's get started and let's talk about managing stress. So where are you from, Ariel? Are you in Ontario, or are you in a different province? Gatineau, perfect. Okay, so we're practically neighbors. I tried to go to Gatineau the other day and it was closed. There was 8 police officers saying you need to turn around. So I did. All right, let's get started. I'm going to turn this off and share the presentation with you. So PSP workshops before. Are you sort of aware of the different workshops that are being advertised or that are being hosted every couple of hours? So just to let you know about this presentation, you have taken one. Perfect. Okay, so just again, this is the slide that starts all of the presentations. So it's a property of the Department of National Defense. So any reproduction or retransmission of the slides is strictly forbidden. There may be some things in this presentation that are sensitive that are of sensitive nature, but I don't think so. I don't think that there's anything that might be triggering, but you never know. Also knowing that this webinar is being recorded, so anything that we share or that you say online will be recorded. So just so that you're aware of that. So this is also a mandatory poll. So where, let me just add these polls here. The first poll is asking you about your affiliation with the CAF community. Okay, perfect. So am I in health promotion. Perfect. All right, so let's talk about stress management. So we are going to talk about the definition of stress. Oh, we have another person. Excellent. Welcome to person number 2. Melody, you're back. Nice to see you, or I guess have your email beside me again. Okay, so there's 2 of us. Perfect. So we'll talk about the types of stress and then returning to the relaxation state. We're going to talk about the effects of stress on our bodies. Then we're going to talk about how to manage that, and then talk about how to increase our resilience. So what do you think we all have in common? Not just the 2 of us, but everybody who basically lives on this earth. Good morning, Melody. All right. So we are going to talk about stress. We all have stress in common. We all have the fact that we're living in a pandemic. We all have different stresses that keep us going, that keep us sometimes overwhelmed. We all have different stresses, and we all perceive stress very differently. And we all have sort of different levels of stress, but we all have stress. And stress is actually one of the things that a lot of people don't think is good, but some stress is actually really good, and some stress is really, really important. So, when I talk about some of us might see different stress or feel stress in a different way, this is really all about our perception. So, we collect information through all of our senses, and then this data gets filtered through our own experiences and results in what we believe to be true. And so, what's interesting is that as we all read this, what we believe to be true is going to be different than what someone else believes to be true. So, when we have feelings or when we see a situation a certain way, everybody sees it differently. So even you could be in one argument or one situation with somebody, and the situation that you're in is going to be perceived by one person very differently than by the other person. What do you think is part of that perception? What do you think every person has within their perception that makes it different from somebody else's perception? If you want to throw something in the chat, what do you think? Perspective? Yeah. Right? So the way you see different things, the way you interpret different things, so a different perspective, right? So almost like a different point of view. If you're looking at the situation and you are interpreting it, you are seeing it differently because of your different experiences, right? We're seeing it based on, yeah, exactly, previous experiences. Maybe it could be our age, it could be how we were raised, our religion. All of those different things are part of that perspective. So when we define stress, it's our body's response to any stimulus or demand. So anything that will stimulate us, which will trigger us, will get an automatic response. And we know that response to be the fight or flight response. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but we don't tell our bodies to go into that response. It does that automatically. And it happens when the pressure exceeds our perceived ability to cope. So when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel like a lot is going on, maybe we feel tired, or maybe we're hungry, maybe we've had this experience before and it was bad. So our perceived ability to cope is not great enough for us to be able to maybe get through the situation or see the situation calmly. And so we might have a fight or flight response at that point. But stress can be positive or it can be negative. A lot of the times we focus on the negative aspects of stress, but there's a lot of really great aspects of stress. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? You can hear me? Oh my gosh, that's so great. Okay. Excellent. Okay, here we go. Two different computers, and off we go. All right. Thank goodness. Here we go. You know, it's funny. Every time I teach a stress briefing, something stressful happens. The last time I locked my keys in my car and got to the briefing almost late, but anyways, here we go. So, here when we talk about stress management and we talk about how sometimes stress can be positive, sometimes we need stress to give us that energy to be able to, you know, get a job done or to get onto um, when it says rocking it at the top here. Sometimes we need that maximum amount of stress to get going, to get up, to run and catch the bus, or sometimes we need to, we're in a competition. Sometimes we need to be at a stress point where we have to do well at an interview or we have to get something in on time, those kinds of things. So when we talk about stress, that's peak performance. That's when we have um, the right amount of stress to maximize our performance. But we always need to go from rocking it to you've got my attention, you need to come back down again so that you're not always working at 100%. Because if you try to work at 100% and you try to put 100% into everything you do without giving yourself the opportunity to come down and relax, sometimes you go to the start to freak out part. And that's when we feel overwhelmed. That's when we feel like um, maybe we're not sleeping well anymore. We're not able to recover anymore. Sometimes we maybe don't have time. Maybe lots of things are going on in our life and we don't have time to take two steps back and relax so that we're able to go back up to rocking it and then back down again. There's other personalities as well that sort of try to stay up on top here, like type A personalities or perfectionists and those kinds of things. And sometimes that's where we start to burn out because if we don't take care of that and we try to do too much too soon, too often, hold on to too much stress without doing anything to release it, this is when we crash and burn. This is when burnout happens. Does anybody, do either of you know anybody who's burnt out and how long it takes to rebuild yourself after that? Yeah, there you go. It almost took 2 years. It's because your adrenal glands are exhausted. It takes a long time to find a way to put stress management back into your life. So it's really, really important that you realize that, and then you always try to go back to relaxing, so you have enough energy to go back up to rocking it. Now, Ariel, what did you do to get yourself back up again? Did you establish any techniques within your daily life to help you with your stress management? So lots of hobbies, right? A counselor, change careers, right? Sometimes it's our work, sometimes it's our boss. Melody, lots of hobbies. You know, we need things that we enjoy that can take our mind off of, oh, a pet. Amen. Yes, I totally hear that. All of those things are really, really great, and they help you with I guess just relaxing, just finding your center, just finding some peace, and to take your mind off of all of those other things that require all of our attention. And we know this as a fight or flight response. If we're in fight mode, we're in that peak performance. We have enough energy to be able to accomplish that task. When we're in the flight mode, it's because now we feel like we can't fight that saber-toothed tiger. We need to run away from it because we just don't have the energy or the, I guess, the resources that we feel that we have. So that's when we feel the fight or flight response and we feel that surge of adrenaline. We feel like we're getting sweaty, we're getting hot. We have an increase in heart rate. Our breathing becomes increased. We start to sweat. Maybe there's a knot in our stomach. And what's interesting about this fight or flight response is that we also have a decrease in empathy. So when we feel like we're at the top of our stress, when we feel like we're seeing almost like we see narrow-minded. We might say things or do things that we do when we react to fight or flight, and we might say or do things that we regret. And that's typically because when we get to that point, our blood is no longer in our brain. It goes into our muscles because that's where we need it to fight or flight the saber-toothed tiger. So we're not thinking clearly. And so this can really also increase things like cortisol, which is a hormone that will increase a lot of negative things. We're going to see that, or adrenaline, right? That gives us that energy, the heart pumping, and the sweating. Okay. So the stress hormones, we know that the fight or flight response, the adrenaline is the the one that gives us the superpower, the one that gives us, we've heard of moms um, lifting off of their babies, or we've heard of people, having superpowers of running fast, or fighting the saber-toothed tiger. But then we also have cortisol. So if we run through and we have stress on a regular basis, cortisol runs through our body and it doesn't get eliminated as quickly as adrenaline does. And so cortisol will stay in our body. And when we look at, these gentlemen down here, cortisol makes us more susceptible to illness, right? So our immune system is run down. It expands our waistline. So sometimes when we feel stressed, we might feel like we're gaining weight and we're not able to manage that. Maybe because we're not sleeping enough, or maybe because we're stress eating. But cortisol will also try to gather all of your, I'm going to say, stress or energy around your middle, because it's closer to your internal organs. And so that also makes it a dangerous place for your body to store fat. So also cortisol will increase risk of anxiety and depression, and it speeds up the aging process. Okay, we can see how these guys have not done well with stress. Now, when we talk about what stress can do to our bodies if we don't look after it, sometimes our reactions to stress will be physical. So sometimes we might feel like our muscles are tense. Maybe you might feel like you get a headache because your shoulders are tense. Maybe you feel back pain because sometimes stress will exacerbate pain. Some of us have issues with digestion. You get a knot in your stomach. So for some of us, our reactions to stress are physical. Your body's talking to you physically. Sometimes our reactions to stress are mental. So maybe you're easily distracted, or you start to forget things, right? We think, well, oh, I forget my keys, but it's because I'm getting old. Well, it's not, right? It's because you're distracted and you're not able to focus on what you're doing. Sometimes it could be irrational thoughts or change in self-image. Sometimes our reactions to stress are emotional. So sometimes we're more moody. We might have a shorter fuse. We might react to people a little bit faster. Maybe our emotions now become anger, and they become more, I guess, quickly. We go quickly to anger, or we go quickly to a negative emotion. Sometimes our reactions to stress can be social, and we don't want to really be with people, so we might start to isolate. Maybe now we start having conflicts in communication and we start to argue more with our partners or our kids. Maybe we start to decrease commitment at work or at home, right? We try to avoid any type of confrontation. So we might, reduce our interest in working harder. Sometimes our reactions to stress are behavioral, right? Maybe we start changing our eating habits. Some people who are stressed eat more. Some people who are stressed eat less, right? My husband forgets to eat. I don't understand how anybody forgets to eat, but some people change their habits. Or some people will start using more caffeine, because the whole vicious cycle is, well, you sleep less, your sleeping habits change. And so you're more tired, so you need to have more caffeine in the morning, and then that will affect your sleep and your stress even more. So our reactions to yeah, guilty of that. Stress usually affects our sleep first. So do you recognize any of these reactions in yourself besides the coffee? We know that our bodies are always talking to us. And these are your signs that, oh, I need to start stepping back. I need to start doing something to take care of myself. The caffeine. Yeah, a lot of us feel that way. Because we feel more fatigued, we feel like we have less energy. Oh, I get forgetful and angry. Yeah, when super stressed. Absolutely. I forget too, but basic things, right? Like I forgot to bring my running shoes to the gym, or very simple things that we do regularly that are part of our routine. So these are all normal things. This is your body going, oh, aha, I need to start managing my stress a little bit more. And what's funny is that typically when we get these reactions, it's because a lot is going on. And so the time we need to stop and take care of ourselves is usually when we don't have time. But the problem is that if we don't, they might become chronic reactions to stress. And so our physical heart pumping or our physical, bodies being tense might turn into high blood pressure. Maybe we've weakened our immune system. Oh yeah, become very focused, right? Because we kind of see narrow-minded. We kind of become um, sort of our vision becomes push away. But maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, right? So our vision becomes very focused on one thing, but we forget about everything else. So we might have chronic fatigue at this point. Maybe now our impairment is, our judgment is impaired, or maybe we have confused or chaotic thinking. What about emotional? Sometimes we start to have anxiety or depression, or people go into road rage. Some people get so irate and angry that they actually see red. They don't know what's happening inside their brain because it stops thinking because all of their blood has left their brain. So there's more fears, there's more worries. Maybe we get social chronic chronic issues, right? Sometimes there's burnout, right? We know chronic relationship problems. Maybe some of us turn to violence. Or when we talk about the changing eating patterns, some might have eating disorders. Some actually go to insomnia or start substance abuse to start managing the pain or discomfort that they've gone into. So that's why it's really, really important to kind of listen to those initial signals and for us to go, okay, what can I do to reverse that before it becomes something that is a much bigger issue? So this is where we created the mental health continuum model. Have any of you ever seen this before? So the mental health continuum model is a behavior model. So the National Defense as well as the U.S. Marine Corps have put this model together so that when we have different behavior changes, we kind of know where we're at down this mental health continuum. So when we're in the healthy, we have normal mood fluctuations, normal sleep patterns, we're physically well, we want to socialize, and there's no reason to use alcohol or gambling or any type of drugs to manage our distress, right? We're in the healthy, and that's kind of our goal. When we're in the reacting phase, it's like we're having a bad day. So maybe we're more impatient, we might feel more overwhelmed. Again, we talked about the forgetfulness or the sleeping issues that we might be having. Maybe now we have a little bit less energy. We don't want to socialize, maybe, or we might have a little bit more alcohol instead of having it like once or twice a week when we're just, having a dinner. Now it might be like, oh, I need a drink every day. Maybe I need to start taking Advil every day because I have a headache or because my head hurts or because my muscles hurt. So that's a reacting phase. That's like your initial reactions to stress. This is when we're really, really looking at, okay, what can I do? What can I do to reverse this type of bad day? Because if we don't, and it becomes our new sort of go to, we don't do anything to change this, then it's easy to slide into the injured phase. And in the injured phase, it's interesting, you don't know that you're there because that has become your new normal. So, for example, the healthy, think of it as you're going on a beautiful jog. You're in the zone, you feel great, you're kind of floating, you feel like you're paced well, that you're at a good temperature, you're breathing properly. And then the reacting phase is a little twist of your ankle. You stumble on a rock or something and you're a little bit uncomfortable. You know, uh, you could take 3 days, put some ice on it, and go back to being healthy so you can go back to running. Or you can continue running on that slight discomfort. It's not going to get better on its own, but you just don't have time to take care of that foot right now. So you're going to keep running. So that injured phase is like running on that injured ankle, but becoming numb to that. That has become your new everyday normal. So for you to be negative, for you to be more restless at night, maybe anger becomes a part of your daily repertoire of emotions. Maybe now you're avoiding all social contact because you just don't have the energy to be social, right? Maybe now you're having a little bit more alcohol or drugs, or some people now are using gaming, right, to escape. And that danger phase is a dangerous phase, like I said, because we don't know that we're always there. So it's always really important to sort of be aware of where your behaviors lie or where someone else's behaviors lie. Maybe this is somebody in your home who's going down this mental health continuum model, and they're not feeling good, or they're starting to be different. Their behavior is different. Very important to sort of say, hey, I've noticed that you're more negative, or I've noticed that um, you're taking a lot of Advil, or I've noticed that you're not answering any of my phone calls anymore. What's going on? And when we're in this phase, it's very interesting that if we stay here long enough, it's very possible to become ill, to have a diagnosed now mental health injury, and it's going to take a lot longer to heal. So when we look at that, running beautifully, twisting our ankle, and then running on that painful ankle, but becoming numb to the pain, you might be um, weakening your ligaments. So when you become ill, think of it as like a torn Achilles tendon, for example. You can recover from that, but now you need medical intervention. You're going to need time in the hospital. You're going to need physiotherapy. It's going to take you a lot longer to get back to that healthy run than it would have if you just stopped and took 2 or 3 days in the reacting phase. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you kind of put yourself in one of these categories? Or maybe we kind of, you know, are between two, but knowing that it's always possible to get back to green, right? Never worry that if you're in the orange, uh-oh, what am I going to do? It's always possible. The minute you realize it and you get some help, you do something about it, we're always able to go back to green. But the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to go back. So when you think about that, and you've looked at the different behaviors that are on that continuum, how does stress feel to you? What are some things that you feel? Okay, let me just read this. The thing I try to do is decrease the thing that is making me stress, right? Find the trigger, or exercise and eat well and keep myself busy. Yep, but with the pandemic, there is no escaping it. Yeah, and you have to keep social distancing yourself, even though that's the thing that is stressing you out, regardless if you understand the logic of it or not. So I'm struggling to figure out how to maintain a healthy mental health because of that. Ariel, that is beautiful. And I will in one of the next slides, we're going to talk about the personal power grid, and I'm hoping that that's going to help you a lot. Okay, but at least you know it, you're aware of it, right? So what kinds of things are you doing? And you said, look for the triggers. What causes that feeling of being stressed, right? Is it this pandemic? Well, what what are your personal warning signs? And if you're aware of those, what have we been doing to kind of manage those? And if you're saying exercise and eating well, those are two really, really great places to start. Okay, but it's really important to be aware of what that feels like to you so that you know when your body's talking to you. Right? So why would it be important to manage stress? Because the more we practice our healthy stress management, the more we can handle life's demands. So a lot of the times, if we don't have it built into our current lifestyle and we forget to practice stress management, whether whether we stop exercising or whether we don't normally um, do any type of meditation or yoga or go outside and take some deep breaths, whatever it is that we're normally helping us doing stress management, and we stop doing those, then that's when we become even more stressed, right? So the more we practice healthy lifestyle management, the more we can handle life's demands. And that's really important, is that you need to find something that works for you, but do it every day. The more often you do it, the better you're going to be at it. And the more you're going to be resilient to whatever it is that's happening, right? So you'll be healthier, happier, and more productive. And of course, that sounds easier said than done. Absolutely. Doing self-care every day takes a lot of work. And sometimes when you're just getting started on that, even just starting to do self-care isn't always part of our lifestyle. So even just thinking of having to do it sometimes causes us to feel distressed. But it's more like starting slowly. Can I take 1 minute every day to take a deep breath? Okay, well, maybe that's a great place to start. So that's just 1 minute of your day. Maybe I can start going for a walk around the block. Maybe that's all I need. Maybe I need to connect with one person every day. Set goals maybe once a day. So, really important to find out what works for you. Now, this is kind of one of those things is what stress management is. So, if you were to hold this glass of water, let's say you're holding your water bottle, a glass of water, and you're holding it out on an extended arm, how long do you think you can hold on to that before it becomes painful? And that's kind of a rhetorical question, right? The longer we hold on to it, the heavier it's going to get. And of course, the more damage it can create in your shoulder. But do you think holding out that glass of water, knowing that it's going to hurt your shoulder, the more often you put it down and give yourself a break or a breather, then you pick it back up again, it doesn't seem as heavy or as bad as when you put it down because you were in discomfort. So that's the same thing as self-care or managing stress. It's putting that glass down, give yourself, give your body, give your mind a breather, and then pick it back up again. So it's almost like strength training when you think about strength training, right? It's resistance training. So you put it down, you pick it back up again. But it's also giving your brain and your body the moment to relax so that you can let it all go and then pick it back up again when you're ready to move on. So, what do you do for stress management? What kinds of things have you done or do you do on a regular basis that make you feel good? So, I'm asking you if you want to put in the chat, what kinds of things do you do to manage stress? And it could be more than one thing. Yeah, great. I work out and spend time with friends. Perfect. Working out is a great thing because when you think about the fight or flight, it's a very physical reaction. We have energy built up in our bodies that are meant to help us fight a saber-toothed tiger. So exercise is a really great way to release it, right? Outdoors, have a quiet time. Going outdoors is really, really important. Getting some fresh air, getting some sunlight. Yes, walking and training your dog. Excellent. My dog actually tore her left back knee ligament and is not able to walk and can't get surgery yet because of this pandemic. So I can't walk my dog until she has surgery. So this is one of those things that's right. We're dealing with pandemic issues. My baby has a torn ligament. So when we look at stress management, it's really important to know. I know, oh baby, it's really important to know what you do and to make sure that you're doing it on a regular basis because consistency is really what's going to help you manage stress in the long run. So when we think about, why is it that we're looking at managing stress, right? Are you happy? And that's a huge loaded question, right? And I don't mean happy like do you feel like you want to sing and dance and you want to giggle all the time. It's are you content? Are you in a good place? Do you feel like what's going on in your life that you have control over is going fairly well, right? So if it is, then keep doing what you're doing because you're clearly doing something well. You're on a good sort of you're on a good way. But if you're not happy, ask yourself one thing: do you want to be happy? Because if you do, you have to change something. And what's very difficult to remember is that you're the one that has to change something because no one is going to change it for you. So if you want to be happy, then you need to change something, whether that's when we talk about perception, whether that's your perception, whether that's letting something go that we can't change, whether that's adding something to your life that you love to do that you haven't been doing. Or, do you want to be happy? Oh, no. Okay, well, then keep doing what you're doing. I love this poster. It really, really speaks to me because it's really about change. And we're the ones that have to make the change. So we're going to talk about the personal power grid. And Errol, this is what I was talking about earlier. So we're going to talk about reduce stress, anger, and frustration in your life by placing the situation in your personal power grid. Now, we're going to look at 4 different quadrants. When we're talking about a situation, we're going to talk about what you can do to change it. Or What do you need to let go of within the situation? What is keeping you stuck within that situation? Or what have you given up on? So those are four different questions that we're going to ask ourselves when we look at this personal power grid. Now, personal power grid is what it's called if you're going to be looking up this particular grid on Google Image. This is where I found it, but it's an excellent grid when we look at how can we manage certain situations. So when we look at this particular situation, the personal power grid, when you look at the two top ones, we have things that we can control and things that we cannot control. What do you think are things that we typically can control? In the chat, if you want to write something down. What are things we always have control over? Or things that we should always be control over? What you eat, what you drink, yeah, what you spend time with, what you read, right? So basically, what you can control is you, your actions, your reactions, your choices, right? And what are typically things that we cannot control? How about everything else? As much as that's a horrible thing to say, when we look at things we can and cannot control, we can always control ourselves, and we cannot control other people. Other people's reactions, we can't control their actions, we can't control, you know, the, the situation that the earth is in right now, right? So when we're looking at this personal power grid, there are two positive places to be: in the mastery quadrant and in the letting go and acceptance quadrant. So let's look at this mastery quadrant. So things that you can control and you take action on. So let's say, for example, you are looking at getting healthier. So just like you were saying, Ariel, in your chat, you said, what can you do to get healthier? You can eat properly. You can, drink some water. Make sure you're getting some sleep. Where these days, yes, right. So we are looking at what we can do. What can I do in this situation to make it work for me? So if I'm looking at getting healthier, I'm gonna, make sure I sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. I'm going to eat properly. I'm going to go out and get some exercise. I'm going to maybe talk to other people. Maybe I'm going to find a video online that I can do exercise with. So mastery is taking control of what you have control over. Because if you can control it and you do nothing and you just give up, well, you keep eating crap, you keep not being active, you don't do anything for self-care, you don't sleep. And so basically, you're giving up on things you have control over. So that is basically hopelessness. You just do nothing about what you have control over. So that's not a great place to be. But now let's look at cannot control. Things we cannot control, yet we continuously try to take action on them. So we keep trying to be angry about them. We keep trying to change them. So for example, when we talk about, let's talk about getting healthier. Things you cannot control would be what? So right now we cannot control that the gyms are closed, right? We cannot control our age. We cannot control our body type. Yet sometimes we try to take action on trying to change those things constantly. We are upset about things that we really have no control over. So when we stop trying to take action on things that we cannot control, we are accepting them the way they are. We are letting them go. So we have to, and this is, I'm talking genuine acceptance. So when we're looking at things we cannot control and we're trying to take action on them, we cannot control the genes that we got. We can't control, the family history of illnesses. We can't control the height that we got. Like my brother is a whole foot taller than me, and was upset about that for a long time, but I had to let that go and accept that at one point. So when we're looking at this personal power grid, you have to place the situation that we're in within this power grid. So let's say, even just for example, let's talk about the weather, right? We can't control that it snowed last week. So if we can, what are some things that we can control and take action on when it comes to mastery within the weather? What can we do with the weather? If you hate winter, let's talk about winter. What can you control and take action on in the winter time to master? You can move, amen, right? You can go down south, you can move to BC, you can, you know, be a snowbird and go 6 months out of the year to Florida, which is something that my mother-in-law decided to do, which I'm like, you know what, that's a great idea. You can control a winter hobby, perfect. Start skiing, skating. Also, you can control the clothing that you wear. Before I had a dog, I did not believe in winter clothing because I was against winter. I would ceaselessly strive. I hated it, and it would make me angry every day. But then I got a dog and I had to get better boots and better coat and better hat and mitts and gloves. And so those are things that I can control. And I really enjoy winter now because I took my warmth into my own hands, and I got a winter dog. So I could ceaseless strive and be angry about winter, the fact that it came every year, and I was trying to, oh, winter seems beautiful. I was trying to, or I could accept and let go of the fact that I'm in Canada, I'm in Ottawa. I have to accept that I'm here. We have 4 different seasons, sometimes all in the same day. But that is okay. I can't change it. Because if I give up, then I'm just going to wear not warm clothing, and I'm going to wear little shoes like the teenagers that don't wear hats and they don't zip up their coat, right? They're not doing anything about what they can control. So let's talk about this whole pandemic, right? Are we able to control that or not? Are we able to control other people within this pandemic? We can't control the fact that this whole world is on lockdown. We can't control that some people aren't going to wear masks. We can't control that some people are going to take this seriously, not take this seriously. We can only control what we do and what we can control. So at one point, we have to let go that we may not travel this year. We have to accept that, everybody's in the same situation. We have to accept that some people are going to be good with it and some people are not. But what are some things that we can control and take action on within this pandemic if it's causing us some distress? For some of us, that might be establishing a routine that involves some of your favorite hobbies, right? We know that connection is really important. So with your best friends or your parents or your kids, it might involve making sure that you go outside every day and so you're surrounded by people. Maybe you need to adopt a pet. Maybe you need to, watch a movie, maybe find some comedy. Know that the more you fight against it, the unhappier you're going to be because we cannot change it. So we have to look at those two. Oh, we have to, um, sorry about that, Melody. We have to understand that we have to take control of what we can take control of and let go and genuinely let go of things that we cannot control. So I'm going to maybe just put my volume up a little bit. Ooh, is that a little bit better? Can you guys hear me louder now? Can you hear me? Oh, seems okay. Perfect. Okay. So this is when we talk about the personal power grid and when we talk about situations that cause us distress. Is there any questions about that, or does that make some sense? So for me, sometimes this power grid also has to do with other people. So when we look at people within our homes or when we look at coworkers or neighbors, sometimes we have to realize or understand that we are not going to be able to change other people, that we can only change the way we react to them or the way that we view them, the way that we respond to them. So if you have, a disagreement with somebody, if you have a child with ADHD, if you have teenagers, if you have, um, a boss or a neighbor that you can't get along with, all you can do sometimes is change the way you react and respond. Because if you change, then their response will also typically change, right? Changing the way you communicate with them, changing the way you don't react in anger, maybe react in curiosity, right? Because we have to accept that people are the way they are and they're going to be those people and they're not going to change for you because that's who they are. And so this is kind of where that personal power grid requires a lot of work if you're looking at changing something. So we're looking at the two that cause stress. The one is ceaseless striving. So things you cannot change, things that will not change, even if you keep trying to change them, right? Like other people, the weather, basically everything else except you. Giving up is not doing anything about what you can change or what you have control over. And that's really staying stuck. And that's also a really hard place to be. But things that reduce stress is mastery. So things you can do, your reactions, your responses to every situation, taking control of you, right? And sometimes you just need to write it down. What can I do to make some changes? Or letting things go, accepting things or other people the way they are, and letting go of the expectation that they will change. In my anger management workshop that I start next week, we're going to talk a lot about expectations and how typically expectations is what makes us upset. And we have to understand that expectations of other people are things that we have to also let go of because they are other people and they're not going to be like you. So when we talk about internal stressors, what you can do, how you think, how you act, and what you do are really important. So what are things you can control when we talk about that personal power grid? We can talk about time. We can talk about work-life balance. We can talk about creating a healthy lifestyle or doing some relaxation exercises. Okay, so one of those things that we have control over are our priorities. So sometimes we have to see if our priorities are things that we spend time on and being aware of how you are spending your time. So when we have a priority, let's say it's, if we're looking at being healthier, are you spending time cooking healthy meals? Are you spending time exercising? Are you spending time sleeping? Or do you say, I don't have time for these things? Or do you say, I don't take the time for these things? And those are two really, really important questions or two important statements because we think we don't have control over time, but typically we have to be aware of how we're spending our time and making sure that the time we are spending are things that are important to us. I was on a workshop once that they said, look at your bank account and your day planner. Are those the things that you want to be, are those your priorities really? Or are those things that you are just wasting your time on? So I thought that was really interesting. So it's about taking your time. So if I were to ask you, what is work-life balance for you? And do you have it right now? What is work-life balance? Do you know what it looks like for you? I'm not sure. Yeah. And when we're not sure about what work-life balance looks like or what it means to us, how are we going to get there? How do we know what to strive for if we don't know what that might look like? So ask yourself, if I had work-life balance, what would it look like? What would I want more of in my life? And that's a really important question when it comes to how do you get to work-life balance? Because if you don't know, you can't get there because you won't know what to strive for. So basically, work-life balance allows us to effectively manage multiple roles and goals in your personal life and professional life. It's an attempt to be happy at work and at home and an extension of your time management skills. And I think it was Ariel that said you actually had to leave a job, right? So maybe you weren't happy at work and you had to make those changes. But when we think about um, our happiness, do we need to make some changes, right? We already asked ourselves that question. Are we happy? Do we need to make a change? Are we doing anything that has to do with what is our priority? And a priority should be creating a healthy lifestyle. So let's look at sleep. How many hours of sleep a night do you think is important for maintaining a healthy body and a healthy mind? Anybody know? So let's look at that. So when we look at sleep, sleep is one of those things that a lot of people don't take seriously, or they take for granted. So very important to know that sleep is one of the most important things to have in our life. Now, excuse me. So sleep is really important, anywhere between 7 and 9 hours. 7 is actually the minimum that it takes for our bodies to repair and recuperate. So if we're not getting 7 hours, we might be sleep deprived. And sleep deprivation increases cortisol in our bloodstream. It increases our hunger, right? So we want more high fat, high carb, high salt, high sugar foods, right? So maybe it might change our body composition. It'll affect our resiliency, so our mood will be affected, and we might have a difficulty with weight loss or building muscle, consolidating things to memory, managing mood, right? So we need to make sure that we're getting sleep or putting a lot more effort into the amount of sleep that we're getting. Okay, so 7 is our minimum. Now, tips for better night's sleep: have a regular sleep routine, turn your alarm clock away from view, make your room dark and cool and quiet, remove all screens, right? TV, phone, iPad, iPod, all of those different things. Because sleep or screens will not let your brain release melatonin. Napping can count, but it can also take away from the sleep you're getting at night. So they say if you're going to have a nap, 20 minutes is your maximum, because otherwise you go into a sort of a REM. So you need an hour and a half of nap to get through one whole REM cycle. Otherwise, you'll be groggy when you wake up. So napping can be taken away from the reason that you're sleeping a full night. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's often what happens. Um, and it is important to make sleep a priority. Um, Getting regular exercise during the day, and reducing alcohol and caffeine. So some people can drink caffeine. Oh yeah, no, it doesn't affect my sleep. You might not think it affects your sleep, but it affects the quality of your sleep. Same thing with alcohol. So making sure your mattress is comfortable, and don't go to bed hungry. I know that people think, oh, I shouldn't eat before bed, but you also shouldn't be hungry, because then you can't sleep. And don't have a super heavy meal before bed. Right? So fitness is also something that's really important. Oh my goodness. So making sure that if you have exercise during the day, you have a lower perceived stress. And stress management, exercise is one of the best things for stress management. So getting some fresh air, going outside, walking, getting your heart rate up a little bit, really important for managing stress. Eating properly, we know that eating properly feeds your brain, feeds your muscles, feeds your blood. So you need to eat regularly, otherwise your blood sugar will sort of ebb and flow throughout the day. Relax at mealtime, right? Stop what you're doing, cut down on caffeine, avoid energy drinks, eat lots of fruits and vegetables. So get as many colors as you can throughout the day or throughout the week. Drink lots of water, try to minimize sugar and salt consumption, increase fiber and healthy fats, right? So don't avoid fat, eat healthy fats, very important. And choose a variety of protein sources. Try not to eat the same thing too often, and get a variety. We also want to limit all of these different things, and I think that sort of goes without saying, but really important to mention. We need to do a relaxation exercise, or at least find out what might work for us. For some, it might just be a deep breath. Maybe we do some mindfulness. Mindfulness is just about being present in the moment and taking a minute to be here and now. Because if we live in the future, we have anxiety. If we live in the past, we might have depression. So living in the here and now is not something that we often do. So it could take just a few minutes to focus on one thing, your breath, or could be just looking at your dog or whatever, just being in the moment. And so finding out more about that is very, very important for putting that glass of water down and giving your mind a break. We have over 70,000 thoughts a day. So sometimes just taking a few minutes to not have a thought or to just have one thought really, really helps with managing stress. So that relaxation response that our minds will have is a state of deep breath that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress. So it reverses the fight or flight response. So it decreases the heart rate, blood pressure, and rate of breathing and muscle tension. It reduces anxiety and arousal by bringing the body to a physiologically relaxed state, right? So the opposite of the fight or flight. So I'm going to get you to practice just by taking one deep breath. So I'm going to get you to close your eyes if you're willing, and I want you to just focus on your breathing. I want you to just focus on how you're breathing. Is your chest moving? Is your belly moving? Are you breathing just from the nose? Or are you taking breaths that come from your belly? So now I want you to think about, we're going to do a belly breath, and I want you to put your hand on your diaphragm, which is right under your rib cage. And when you take a deep breath, I want you to inhale for 4 seconds, and I want your waistline to expand with your ribs sideways, not up. So taking a deep breath in for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then we're going to hold for 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and exhale slowly for 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's do that again. Take a deep breath in. 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. 3, 2, 1. Exhale slowly. 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's called belly breathing. Very important to use your belly when you're breathing. You have to expand your diaphragm for all of that relaxation response to happen. That could be one thing that you can try to manage stress. And then when we talk about resilience, it's our ability to bounce back and our ability to cope. We can learn and develop our resiliency as an internal resource. And learning to manage stress increases our resiliency. So resilience is basically being able to learn and grow from all of our experiences. How can we move past the negative experiences that we have so that we're able to cope with the future? Because resilient people are optimistic and hopeful. They're aware of their emotions and behaviors. They understand that setbacks are a part of life, right? Life isn't always happy. We understand that things happen, but that they will get better. They have a sense of control over their lives, so they live in that quadrant of mastery a lot of the time. And they talk about problem-solving skills. They try to connect with others, and they're willing to ask for help when they need it, right? We don't wait until the very last minute or until we're in distress before asking help. They'll ask for help sooner rather than later. So to strengthen your resilience, basically taking care of yourself. The more you care about yourself, the more resilient you're going to be. So sleeping, eating well, managing stress, managing distress, stay connected. This is really important. Our support network is our number one factor in recovery when it comes to any type of illness, whether it's physical or mental. Attitude, gratitude, and optimism are key. And then be proactive by asking for help as soon as possible. Now, I have a video for you, but we don't have time because we have to finish in 2 minutes. But I want you to try to find this. And actually, I have it in the handout section. Nope, it's one of the resources I have. But take a look at Dr. Mike Evans. Here, how to get through a crap week. You might want to copy that down. Oops. And yeah, is it playing? What's happening right now? I don't know what's happening. Close. So yeah, by Dr. Mike Evans. It's really interesting. He's a very funny guy, but he's very, very down to the sort of very straight to the point. If you need any help, these are some resources that you can get help from if you work for national defense. Whether you're civilian or military, there's lots of information here that you can get. I don't know if you have your phone with you, but you can take a picture of this slide. We can also, too, the place where you signed up, or if you go to our CAF Connection website, there's a lot of resources there that you can access. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to ask you one or two more questions here. So I feel I can apply what I've learned today in my daily living. Great. Excellent. Perfect. And there is one other question if you have a minute. They're asking us to ask you about the Demio. Are you happy with this Demio platform? With this platform? Yeah. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the platform, but it's my computer. Yeah, it's challenging during this time. But I really want to first thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, I will stay on the line for a bit if you want to chat or ask questions. We can't give you the slides, but because this is recorded, it will be on this site. I wish I could tell you where, how, or when, but they will be available to go back to if you wanted to get them. I'm not sure how and when, but I know that if you go back to the place where you registered for this, that or ask questions, I can't answer them, but I will see if someone can. But go to the CAP Connections and you might be able to get it there. Online, no, because of the intellectual property of national defense. But some of the things that we've seen, like the personal power grid and those kinds of things, the time management and all those are things that we can find online. But like I said, because this is recorded, you will have access to it at some point. The PSP site. Yes, there's a PSP site. You can go to the PSP Ottawa. You can Google PSP Ottawa. This is our website, or there's the CAF Connection website that you can get from. You can Google online and get to the CAF Connection. There's a lot of resources there. You can also go on to if you look at the health tab under the CAF Connections, you can find the health promotion, and then maybe get in touch with one of the people that are there to see if they can answer your question about getting the slides. I'm really sorry, I don't know yet, and I don't know if they're posted yet, but they are being recorded. So at some point, if you were to come back, you'd be able to see the slides. Have a great meeting. You're very welcome. I hope that helped a little bit. You're very welcome. Thanks for coming back, Melanie. I'm glad you came back. Enjoy BC. I bet you guys have nice weather. We had a frost warning yesterday. All right, guys, I'm going to stay online if you have any more questions. Otherwise, it's raining on the island. Yeah, I bet it is. But I bet it's warm when it's not raining. We're actually getting sunshine now for the first time in a while. It's going to go above 10 today. Yay. All right, so if you have any further questions, 15. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. We're going to 14 today and hopefully 20 over the weekend. So we're very excited about that. We had snow on Saturday. All right, well, thank you for joining again. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any more questions, I'll be here. And oh, the weekend is hot. Yeah, we're looking for it. We're looking forward to it. We kind of feel like we deserve a little bit of nice weather at this point, just to go outside. We've had snow almost every other day for a couple of weeks, so it's May. Oh, I'm sorry about the sound. It's not ideal. This computer's old. I am getting a new one. Oops. No, actually, the last workshop I taught, um, I had to switch computers. And because I ended the session, I had to ask Demio to resend everybody the link, and then I had to type the rest of the presentation, like 3/4 of the presentation. I was typing all the information I had to say. So thank you. I appreciate the patience with this technology. We have to find a better way. I have to find a better way. I need a better computer. Thank you so much, Melody. Have a great weekend. So, thank you. You are so welcome. Have a great week as well. And I guess it's only Wednesday, so we have a couple of days, but it's a long weekend, and I think we totally deserve it. So enjoy your long weekend. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to end the session, but always sort of available for emails. Like I said, if you want to take this email down, that's our email address, or sorry, our web address, and we can always answer emails from there. All right. All right, guys. Well, have a great week. I'll see you later. I'm teaching anger management next week if you're interested. Bye.